With so much misinformation available online about the IELTS test, it's easy to get confused about what to believe and what not to believe. In this video, we will debunk 10 common myths about the IELTS speaking test. So let's dive right in. Number 1. You get a higher score if you give long answers. Not true. While on the first part of speaking test, we need to make sure that our answers are clear and concise. In the third part, we need to answer in more detail. This is because the first round is just small talk. You're asked simple questions, general questions about you. The purpose of this round is to make you more comfortable for your speaking test. So you're asked questions that you're familiar with. For example, if I'm asked where I'm from, I will not start describing the city where I live. I'll simply tell where I'm from. Likewise, if the examiner asks me what I do for work, I will simply tell what I do. I will not start talking about why I chose to do that job. So when we start giving detailed answers for task 1 without even the examiner asking us to, we're simply telling the examiners that we have either memorized those answers or we did not even understand the question right. Either way, we lose marks. So for part 1 of your speaking test, try to give clear and concise answers. That being said, do not give 1 or 2 word answers. Our answers should be in form of sentences and not words. The third part of the speaking test is called discussion topics round. Now this is where the examiner wants to see how comfortable we are carrying out a conversation, a discussion in the English language. So it is important for us to elaborate our response and not just give a single sentence answer. We should also try and support our response with reasons and examples. I would also recommend giving some real-life examples on the speaking test because that shows the examiner that we're very comfortable carrying out a conversation in the English language. Number 2, we should avoid using informal language. Again, not true. In fact, speaking is the only informal module on your IELTS test. Now in the speaking test, the examiner wants to see how close our speaking is to that of a native English speaker. Now, we do not see many English speakers using formal language during their day-to-day conversations. So it is totally okay to use words like gonna or wanna on your speaking test. In fact, we should try and use informal language and avoid using formal language on the speaking test. Save the formal language for your writing module. Don't worry too much about the language. Try and sound more natural. And you will not sound very natural if you try using very formal expressions. This is also why I teach my students to avoid using any high-level vocabulary, because when they try to do so, they're not able to use it correctly or naturally. As well as that, trying to remember some high-level lexes may also cause some pauses in your speaking, which will affect your fluency score. Think of your speaking test as just a casual chat that you're having with someone instead of thinking of it as a job interview. Number 3, eye contact is important for a good score. Eye contact is not important for a good score. Your speaking is marked on your pronunciation, fluency, grammar, and vocabulary. There is no column on your speaking band descriptors for eye contact or body language. So if you're not comfortable making eye contact, you don't have to. If you think trying to make or maintain eye contact may affect your speaking or your fluency, you can of course avoid making eye contact. The examiner is not going to mark you negatively for not making or maintaining eye contact. And then I also get students ask me what they should wear to the speaking test. The answer is wear whatever you're comfortable in. Again, there are no marks for what you're wearing to the test. Also, this is no job interview, so you can wear anything, really. Okay, I take that back. Not literally anything. Number 4, you cannot ask the examiner to repeat a question. It is totally okay to ask the examiner to repeat a question. For part 1, the examiner will repeat the question word for word. For part 3, you may even ask the examiner to rephrase the question. Now, even if we're talking to someone in our own native language, we may sometimes need them to repeat what they just said. So yes, you are allowed to ask the examiner to repeat a question. But I'd recommend doing that only for a question or 2. Anything more than that, we're really just telling the examiner that I'm not able to comprehend English all that well, or I had trouble understanding someone that talks in English. Number 5, you should talk fast to get a good score on fluency. False. Now, every person has their own natural pace when they talk. If you tell them to talk slower or faster than the natural pace, they may sometimes fumble or stutter. I know I do. So it is totally okay to talk at a natural pace. Fluency does not mean being able to talk fast. It simply means that you're able to talk at your own comfortable pace without any major pauses. Number 6, you lose marks for pauses. Let's see what the band descriptor says about fluency. For band 9, it says, any hesitation is content related rather than to find words or grammar. Hesitation here means pause. So you see, pauses are totally okay even for a band 9 level of fluency and coherence. Now, there are both positive and negative pauses. Positive pauses are unnatural pauses while we speak. Even when we're talking to someone in a native language, we are not using a single tone. We vary our tone and intonation according to what we're saying. If we do not use those variations or pauses, our speaking may seem more robotic, or the examiner may think that we have memorized those answers. So positive pauses are content-related pauses, while the negative pauses are when we pause to think of the right vocabulary, or when we're trying to frame grammatically correct sentence in our head. That is where we lose marks. And examiners can clearly tell a content-related pause apart from a grammar or vocabulary related pause. Now, if we have too many pauses in our speaking for part 1, examiner may think that we're not able to find the right words or correct grammar here, because for part 1 we're asked general questions about ourselves. For example, we're asked questions about things that we like to do in our free time, or about our hometown, or my job, or my education. There is really no reason for me to be pausing here. For part 3, on the other hand, I am asked to express my opinion about something. For example, if the examiner asks me, in the future, do you think people will choose to holiday in their own country, or would they prefer to travel abroad? Now, I obviously did not come prepared with this answer. Now, it is totally okay for me to respond to this question like this. Let's see. I think in the future, people may avoid traveling abroad. I think pandemic has completely changed the way we plan our vacations. I don't see many people feel that comfortable traveling abroad, and I think the trend may continue in the future as well. So yes, I think in the future more people will choose to holiday in their own country rather than traveling abroad. Now, the hesitation that I showed at the beginning of my answer is totally natural. It is not going to affect my score at all, because this was a content-related hesitation. Number 7, examiners that are native speakers of English are more lenient than the non-native examiners. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Now, a lot of students think that native speakers of a language are not very mindful of the grammar, but that is only in their day-to-day conversations. These examiners are trained to mark you on your grammar and fluency and vocabulary. and pronunciation. Examiners everywhere undergo the same training to mark candidates on their speaking, regardless of where they're from. So there is no way that a native speaker examiner will mark you more leniently than a non-native speaker. Number 8, British accent will help me get a higher band score. British, American, doesn't matter. There is no column on band descriptor for accent. Now there is a column for pronunciation, so as long as we're pronouncing the word right, we should be good. Let's see what band descriptor for 8 band says under pronunciation. L1 accent has minimal effect on intelligibility. L1 here means a first language. So as long as our native language accent does not interfere with what we're trying to communicate, we will not lose marks on pronunciation. And we definitely do not get any extra marks for British or American accent. See, people from all across the world take IELTS. In fact, most of the test takers are non-native speakers. So it is obviously okay for us to have our regional accents. Now, I'm from Punjab. I still mix my V's and W's, for example. That is because we don't have separate letters for these two. The Punjabi equivalent for both V and W is this. So now during my speaking, if I say very instead of very, I'm not going to lose marks on pronunciation because the examiner clearly understands what I'm trying to say. However, if my first language accent interferes with the message I'm trying to get across, then I may lose marks in pronunciation. For example, if the examiner asks me what my favorite color is, and if I respond with my favorite color is jello, now I may lose marks because this is a clear mispronunciation of the word yellow. So as long as we try and keep our first language accent to a minimal, so as to not let it interfere with the intelligibility or the clarity of our ideas, we will not lose marks on pronunciation. And we absolutely do not get any extra score for a British or an American accent. So don't try too hard to sound more British because it simply doesn't matter. See what I did there? Number 9. You lose marks for not using the paper provided for making notes. It is completely up to you. You may or may not make notes during that 1 minute's preparation time. I remember I didn't even touch the pencil and the paper provided because I personally find that 1 minute's time should rather be used trying to come up with the right topic to speak on, instead of just wasting my time scribbling these notes that I may not even look at. In fact, what I see a lot of students do is they make this web diagram. I've heard a lot of them use this term. I have no idea where they heard that, but so yeah, they use that 1 minute's time to make this web diagram for the ideas that they will use on their cue card. But while they're actually speaking, I hardly ever see students looking at that little diagram they made during 1 minute's prep time. Some students also think that you have to talk about the bullet points in the same order as they appear on your question paper. Again, not true. In fact, you do not even have to include all of them in your speaking. And if any of my former students is watching this, I would like to apologize to them because I always tell them that you lose marks if you skip any of the bullet points for your cue cards. I really only tell them this so that they're able to continue talking, because they sometimes have trouble continuing to talk for the full 2 minutes time. So it is in fact a very good strategy to make sure that you're one by one answering all of the questions written on the cue card. That also makes your speaking more coherent. Number 10, friendly examiners give a higher score. I've seen students leave their speaking test extremely happy because their examiner seemed really friendly and they were smiling the whole time. So they think that they are going to get a really good score on their speaking, but their result would actually say otherwise. Speaking examiners are taught to not seem overtly friendly or rude. The examiners are asked to wear a neutral expression throughout the speaking test so that it doesn't interfere with the candidate's speaking. Now, I've tried my best to cover most of the myths around the IELTS speaking test, but if you think I've missed anything, or if you have any questions about your IELTS speaking test, you may mention them in the comments below.